Hello, everyone. Welcome back for another edition of Novelists Unwind. I'm Johnnie Alexander. I'm an author of both historical and contemporary romance. And I'm really excited today to have as my guest Shanna Hatfield, who just released her 50th novel. Congratulations on that milestone. That is terrific.
Thank you so much, Johnnie. I'm excited about it, and I'm super excited to be here with you today.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Yeah, I'm really glad too. Shanna invited me to help her celebrate her 50th book release with a Facebook party, which turned out to be just fabulous. I think you had close to 400 people.
Yeah, we did. It was a really fun party.
It really was. It was fun. So if you ever get invited to a Facebook party, make sure you get on there. There's all kinds of different authors usually participate, and they give away copies of their books and gift cards and all kinds of stuff. So it was a successful. It was just and it was fun. It was a successful time. And it was just a lot of fun. So Shanna, I'm just going to ask you, tell us a little bit about that very first book and how long it's taken you to write 50 books and what got, when did you get the writing bug?
Okay. Well, I've always liked to write. I've always loved books. I did 10 years as a newspaper journalist.
Oh, wow.
Years and did marketing for a while. And even when I was doing the marketing, I still dabbled writing articles for a regional magazine, but I missed writing all the time. And so it was in February 2010. I decided to sit down and see if I could actually write a book. And that book turned into Heart of Clay, and that was my very first book that I wrote and released. So that book released in 2011.
You've written all these books like in 6 years?
Yeah.
Oh my God. You must write fast.
I can typically write around between a 70 and 90,000 word book. It takes me about 2 to 3 weeks. So then, of course, the editing process, but the actual writing the first draft is usually a 2 to 3 week process.
Wow, that's incredible. Do you do plotting ahead of time?
No, I'm very much a pantser.
I am. I like to be a pantser.
And the whole thing, and I just sat there for like 2 weeks, unable to write, and I'm like, okay, enough of this, and went back just flying by the seat of my pants. That seems to work for me.
Oh my gosh, that's incredible. So I know you've got several different series and several different genres. So tell us about, the different genres you write in, and then of course we want to talk about your newest book too.
Okay, sure. I started out writing, my books are all sweet. They're all sweet romances, but the first ones I wrote were contemporary Western. And then in November of 2012, my first historical romance came out. And again, it has that Western feel, but it's also kind of a Victorian setting. It's a Christmas book. So it's called The Christmas Bargain. And it was a lot of fun. I absolutely love doing the research part of it. I minored in history in college, American history. And so it's fun for me when I'm researching those historicals to get to delve into all those little tidbits of history. And I freely admit I'm a Pinterest junkie, and it's fun to hang out there and look at all the clothes and the old houses, that kind of stuff. I love that. And then last year, actually, I wrote my first World War II romance. And so that's kind of, the contemporary, the historical, and I'm never quite sure where World War II fits into all of that. But the other thing that I have done are a couple humor books. I have one that's kind of things that happened to me growing up on a farm as a kid, just true stories that kind of have a humorous spin on them. And then I did another one. I made my husband do a year-long dating project with me. And so I journaled our 50 dates. And so that book is called 50 Dates with Captain Cave Dweller.
Oh, how fun is that? Captain Cave Dweller. I saw that that's what you call him. I think that's so fun. So you're also writing not just fiction, you're also writing nonfiction. Yeah. And you also have the Savvy Entertaining series.
I do. I have 4 Savvy Entertaining books. They're all free digitally.
Really?
So,
oh, wow.
Yeah. It's the 4 seasons basically, but it's just fun little entertaining tips, decorating ideas, and then there's a bunch of recipes at the back of each book.
Oh, fun. Oh my gosh, you just I'm just in awe of how much writing that you can can
Yeah.
do. That's incredible. But this is your full-time job, right?
It actually last week was kind of a big milestone celebration for me because not only did my 50th book release, but it was also the 4-year anniversary of when I quit my day job and
Oh,
started writing
wow.
full time. Yeah,
That's wonderful. That's wonderful. Now, are you mostly indie published, totally indie published? Tell me
totally,
about totally.
totally, yeah.
Yeah, okay. Well, let's talk about that process because I mean, that is a whole different world when you're in charge then of the editing and the marketing and the covers. You know, do you design your own covers? Do you have someone do that? What sort of things do you do, and what do you contract out to other people?
I basically do everything. I do
Do
my own
you?
covers. I write my own book blurbs. I have a super good friend that we trade book blurbs back and forth, and so that
Mm-hmm.
kind of helps with that. I do hire an editorial team for my books. That is one thing that I feel very strongly about, making sure they're professionally edited.
Uh-huh.
But everything else I get to do myself. So I feel like all my past experiences have really lent themselves to helping me be self-published and just supporting the skills that are needed for that.
Mm-hmm. Well, your covers are really very pretty. So you must have a bit of an artistic eye as well, right?
Yeah, I actually, when I was working for newspapers, I got a little hands-on skill in graphic design, and so that has been a huge, big help in being able to do my own covers. And I like to do photography just for fun on the side, and so that also kind of plays in and helps with doing the book cover design.
Oh, that's cool. That's cool. Well, let's talk a little bit more about your first, well, your World War II series, because what is it? I have it written down. The Hearts of the War series, right? That's your
Yeah.
World War II series. And I should also say that Shanna is a USA bestselling author too. So she has, been awarded that honor, and that's just really great too to have reached that kind of achievement. So you're the real deal. Um, what piqued your interest in World War II? I mean, that's like one of my main interests too. So how did you
I
get
have
in?
to say, I love your book. I
Oh, thank
absolutely
you.
love it. It's so good, and I can't wait for the next one to come out.
I'm
Well,
working on it. Thanks.
start with the World War II was actually my husband and I were on vacation in Portland, Oregon, and we'd gone to the Japanese Museum. I don't know if you've
Oh,
ever even heard of it, but
no.
beautiful, actually Japanese garden, but beautiful, beautiful Japanese garden, and it's up on top of this hill. And unless you kind of know where it's at, um, it's kind of a surprise. And so we were walking around, and I was just in awe of how gorgeous the whole garden was. And that, how you start thinking about an idea, that whole thought process started of what if there was a girl who was hiding in this secret garden up on a hill? Why would she be there? And my husband, I was telling him this as we were walking around, and we both stopped and went, World War II.
Yeah.
Japanese girl, World War II. It just made perfect sense. And so that is where the idea for the first book and kind of the whole series started. Was we were on vacation walking around this gorgeous garden. So the first book is Garden of Her Heart, and it is about a Japanese girl who basically hides away in this garden that her grandparents had secretly built up on a hilltop.
Oh, wow. That's such an amazing premise. And I just love that. And I know I was reading a little bit about it earlier. Then the hero also has, we always like our heroes to have that little bit of inner angst, but he's suffering. Oh gosh, now my mind just went blank. You tell us.
Well, Rock was in a plane crash. And
yes. He's injured. I remembered he was very physically injured, but I couldn't remember how.
He ended actually at the Veterans Hospital in Portland, and he overhears his doctor telling a colleague that he doesn't know how to fix Rock, that he's basically going to die. And so he decides that if he's going to die, it's not going to be at the hospital. So he basically checks himself out and tries to get home. And he ends up at the garden where Miko is the hero, hero's love interest. Anyway, Miko, maybe I should back up just a little bit. So in May 1942, the Japanese were called to report to assembly centers all up and down the West Coast. And so Miko in the story is out of town visiting a friend when that call comes in, and they basically had a week to settle their lives and report to the assembly center. And so in all the hubbub, her family forgot to reach out to her and let her know sooner. And so by the time she got there, she was pushing the deadline, and she gets kicked off the bus and has to she ends up walking to the farm that her grandparents owned. So she's kind of stopped there hoping to catch her family before they left. And that happens to be as far as Rock makes it on his trying to get home. And so that's how the two of them end up connected. So there's this whole conflict with him of knowing that she's supposed to be somewhere else and she's there. And then the conflict of her being there with him, but also knowing she should report and wanting to be with her family. So that's kind of the beginning conflict of the story.
Yeah, that's really great. I mean, I think that's again just an amazing premise to have these two people from really, two different worlds, and they just end up together, and the world is falling apart around them, kind of, So are you from Oregon? Is that where you're?
I've lived here all my life, except for a few months during college when I lived in Arizona.
Oh, that's really different. I have a daughter in Arizona, so I visit there every once in a while, and it's so different.
Yes, I think it was something like 103 degrees in the 1st of May when I left, and I'm like, okay, ready to go back home.
You're ready to go back to where it rains all the time. Oh my gosh, I actually kind of like it. I wasn't sure I would because, of course, I'm in Florida where it's very, semi-tropical and green, a lot of green. I love green, but I don't know, it just sort of grows on you. It's you can see all the mountains, where she is. They're very close to Mexico, and I don't know, I like where she is. It's really nice.
Okay. Our little corner of Oregon they call it the desert, Eastern Oregon desert. So it is hot and dry, but not like Arizona hot.
Not like, I didn't even know they had areas like that in Oregon. I've never, had the privilege of traveling there, but I would like to. Yeah, it's fun. And then, okay, so now that was the Garden of Her Heart. That was the name of the story we were just talking about. And then the next one, the 50th book, the grand book, is Home of Her Heart. And that's another World War II story. And I love your characters' names. I wrote them down so I wouldn't forget them. Klaine Campbell and Delaney Danvers. How do you come up with names like that? Those are so cool.
I like different names. I have had a few, Annas or Johns or whatever in my stories, but I really like names that are different. And so I try and look for something different when I'm thinking about characters for a book. And my brother actually has a friend named Klaine. He spells it totally different. But in the back of my head, I was like, somebody needs to be Klaine at some point. And
somewhere, yeah.
Working on thinking about this character and his different quirks and whatnot, the name Klaine just seemed to fit him so well. And I'm really glad that's the name I chose for him.
Oh, that's cool.
I don't know. She just kind of popped into my head one day, and there she was. So it seems like a good name for a spunky girl, and that's definitely what she is.
Yeah, and I like, the Delaney Danvers, that, alliteration in there it's really cool. So this sounds like a really fun story too. I mean, he's going off to war, and he's lonely, and he's an orphan, and never has had anybody. So he just wants somebody to remember him. Yeah. And then Delaney decides she's going to be the one. So tell us a little bit, without giving any spoilers, tell us a little bit about this special book.
Okay. Well, they meet at a New Year's Eve party, neither one of them really wanted to be there. Delaney's friend talked her into going, and some of Clayne's crew talked him into being there. And so they're both reluctantly there, and they meet, and they actually sneak away to go sit in a diner and just visit, because the house is, it's noisy and whatever. And so they do that, and they just have this immediate connection with each other. And like you said, Clayne is an orphan. He's never really had anyone who cared about him or cared for him or anything. And Delaney is very vibrant and exciting and spunky and full of life. And so I think he's drawn a lot to that spirit that he sees in her. And the inspiration I got for the mission for Clayne comes from the Doolittle Raiders from April of 1942. So when we talk about the secret mission that Clayne is on in the book, that's really the inspiration behind it.
Oh, wow. Wow. And where does this story take place? Does it take place in Oregon as well?
It does. I actually found out in my research that 79 of the 80 men who went on that Doolittle raid were in Pendleton when Jimmy Doolittle called them. So Jimmy Doolittle went on the mission, and he was the only one who wasn't based at Pendleton at the time that they forward. So so that's how it all tied into Pendleton as a background.
That's really cool. I've heard of it, but I really don't know any of the details about that. So that's really interesting. Wow. I love that. I love to, well, it's part of reading historicals, is just picking up on all the history. So do you try to keep do you fudge dates and things, or do you try to keep as close to actual events as possible?
I try and keep the history as true to fact as
I do too.
I do try, because I feel like if people are reading it, they need to get the real history behind it. I mean, once in a while we might fudge a little something, but as far as like dates or specific like that, I try and keep it really true to fact.
Yeah, I do too. I think that's the best way to do it, if at all possible. I also read that people have compared your Westerns. It's like watching an episode of Bonanza or The Virginian. So I was wondering, I mean, I grew up, I don't remember really watching The Virginian very much, but of course the Bonanza. And two of my favorite Westerns are Alias Smith and Jones and The Guns of Will Sonnet. And I wanted to know if you are familiar with either of those shows.
Alien. It is fun. It's fun for people to compare my work to that. It's just such iconic Westerns.
Exactly.
Part of that is that first book in my Pendleton series is really the cattleman versus the sheep kind of thing. And so, and growing up on a farm, I had a brother who was a true blue all-American cowboy. And so I have a lot of, that background and history to draw from. And I feel very blessed I can work that into my stories and give them a realistic look at farm life or ranch life or cowboy life.
Yeah. Oh, that's cool. So what's your favorite Western?
I'm going to myself, and it's going to be really funny, but I was so loopy over the Young Riders when I was going to be my all-time favorite Western forever.
I remember them too. It's so funny. Oh, that's cool. Well, any research things that you want? Do you have any research stories you want to tell us about or share with us? Any like really fascinating things you've learned as you've researched both World War II and Westerns? What's kind of the most fun things you've done in researching, or crazy things that you've done as part of your research?
Well, I have a series that's set in Hardman, Oregon, and it's in Eastern Oregon, and right now it's actually, I think it's on the ghost town list. If you looked up ghost towns,
wow.
Back in the late 1800s, it was a very busy town. On the stage route went right through there, running north and south, and so it was a pretty happening little community. And so my my holiday series that's set back in the 1890s is actually set in Hardman. It's called Hardman Holidays. And so I made my husband go for a drive with me there one day. And we were driving and driving and driving and driving. And it is Eastern Oregon desert. And so there's safe brush and rocks and not much else for miles and miles and miles. And we drive past some roadkill, and I'm like, it looked like a porcupine. Well, now what would a porcupine be doing out there? And we were so bored, we actually turned around and went back to see what the roadkill was, and it was a porcupine. And the funny part was, there was a road sign right there that said Porcupine Lane. So that was my funny go to Herdman story.
Porcupine Lane.
He's really good, my husband. Porcupine Lane, yeah. He's super good about, if I want to go do a research trip, it's more fun to go with somebody than alone. And he's so good to bounce ideas off of. So,
nice.
Yeah, we make a good team. But
sounds like it.
It's fun. And I, of course, I get so absorbed in the history sometimes. So he'll be like, you need to come out of that rabbit hole now. But it's all good, and it's all fun. Yeah. I actually got really, really interested in the Doolittle history when I was researching Home of Her Heart. And for me, it was kind of emotional, just how much these wonderful people sacrificed for their country and how much their families sacrificed. And just being more aware of that, I think it touches your heart in a way you can't even describe.
Yeah, I'm sure. Oh, that's so fascinating. Well, congratulations again, just, on 50 books, especially in such a short amount of time. I mean, I had no idea you were that prolific. Just, wow.
I get it every day feeling very blessed to get to do something I love so, so much. And I hope that carries through in my books too. But I really, really feel like I'm living a blessed, charmed life right now.
Oh, that's so sweet. That is. Well, and I guess I should ask then too, talking about that, how I'm reading one of your stories. It's from the Baker, Oregon series. Yeah, and it's so cute with Posey Joe and Nate and Tad. In fact, I got so tickled because she gets mad at Posey Joe, the mom, gets mad at her little 5-year-old son, and she calls him Nathaniel John Jacobs. Well, my son is named Nathaniel John Jeffrey. He's got 2 middle names. And when I was like, what? It kind of took me out of the story for a minute because it's like, I get Nathaniel John Jeff. Oh no, Jacobs. It was so funny. It was so cute to see that. Yeah, it was really cute. But anyway, what I was getting to with all of that was just how much faith do you put into your stories? I mean, you said they were sweet stories or sweet romances. So do you consider them faith-based stories as well, or how much of a faith theme do you usually have in your stories?
Well, because sweet romances are still kind of struggling to find their little spot.
Yeah.
A lot of times my books get lumped into the inspirational category, and I don't feel like that's a complete mismatch, because I think in every single one of my books, you could definitely say hope is a theme.
Yeah.
Hope. So I feel like that's there. I don't do a lot of, I wouldn't say they're Christian romances per se, because there isn't a salvation message or anything like that that's shared in the books. But I think most of my characters definitely have faith to some degree. And they're, like I said, hope is always a theme in my books.
Yeah, I think that's really important too. And I think we can just have so much of a witness just with that too, without being preachy about it. So that's always a good.
Yeah, I feel like you can share and reach out to people without making them feel uncomfortable.
Yeah, that's great. Well, when you get done writing a book, and I bet I have a feeling you're going to say nothing, you just start writing the next book. But I try to ask everybody, when you're done with that book, done. What do you do to unwind? But if you're just writing that many books, I think you probably just start the next one. Do you take a break?
I might take a day or two. I usually will take a day off and maybe go do something fun or hang out with my husband on his day off. Or we'll go out to dinner, or I will indulge in reading a book just for fun. I love to read. I really do love to read. I have more time to read. So getting to just sit down and read a book for fun, that's a big treat.
Yeah, I know. There's so many books and so little time. And now, of course, I love the book I'm reading of yours, but I want to read the World War II books too. So
I know. I've loved your book. Like
Thank
I
you.
Now, so I appreciate the opportunity to get to read it.
Oh, thank you so much. I appreciate that too. I really do. I do.
I feel like I keep finding all these great new authors, and then you want to add all their books to your
pile.
Well, and as I've been doing these interviews, I try to read at least a little something, by everybody, and it's the same thing. I have just, read some amazing books, but it's like I want to read more and more and more, and there's just not enough time. So yeah, it's been really fun. How can readers get in contact with you? Where's your most favorite place to connect with readers online?
My favorite places to connect would be either my website, which if you just look up shannahatfield.com, there I am.
There you are.
There I am. I love to connect with readers on Facebook.
Yeah.
That's a super fun place to hang out with readers. And I actually have a little street chain stash reader group called Hopeless Romantics. And so anyone who wants to join there is certainly welcome to. We do all kinds of fun things like recipes and craft ideas, all of course romantic theme. But yeah, we just have fun there. And then I hang out on Pinterest, so if readers want to connect there. And the other thing is I encourage readers to sign up for my newsletter because it's a great way to stay on top of the new releases, the sales. I always have a monthly giveaway, and I share recipes there too.
Oh, great. Okay, well, that's a lot of options. So if you like Pinterest, connect with Shanna there, Facebook, and join her street team if you're a hopeless romantic. I love the name of that group. That's fantastic. Facebook, website, newsletter, join in those monthly giveaways. That's, all great places to connect. Thank you again. This has been just a phenomenal interview. I thank you so much for being my guest and just getting the chance to know you. I love participating in the Facebook party and that, and just celebrating.
Join us. You added so much to the
Thank you. And congrats again, 50 books. I'm in awe. I mean, I really am. It's like, oh, I've got like 5 under my belt.
You're wonderful for us.
So anyway, thanks everybody for watching. I hope you connect with Shanna and enjoy one of her many, many books, or more than one. And I will see you all again next week with another guest from Novelists Unwind. Thank you. Bye-bye.